Hi guys, I'm Irene. You're watching Perpetually Paperback, and today I'm doing my mid-year book freakout tag. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I definitely did this book tag a while ago. I also just like that it's kind of a good check-in for mid-year. So I'm going to get started going through some of the questions. I will put them in the description below if you want to follow along. The best book I've read so far. So I actually just finished Pachinko, and that book I just thought was absolutely gorgeous. I can see why it was so popular. It was beautiful. It's also just kind of the recipe for success for me. It was like family, generational drama, literary fiction, gorgeously written. It's a family that immigrates from Korea to Japan, and basically how their identity is shaped. Absolutely beautiful. Next question. The best sequel that I've read so far. So for this one, I'm going to say Scandal Above Stairs by Jennifer Ashley. And the only reason I'm going with this one is because I haven't actually read that many series, and this happened to be one that I really, really enjoyed. I'm going to come back to this one again, probably many times throughout these questions, but it is the Holloway series by Jennifer Ashley. This is a cozy mystery series. Next question is new release that I haven't read but want to. So for that, I am going to say Breathless by Amy McCulloch. McCulloch? I never know how to say that. Anyway, this is a thriller. I got it very recently. It's a new release. It's a climbing thriller, essentially. I, for whatever reason, love climbing movies. I love things about climbing. I love books about climbing. And I have for a long time, so I'm really excited to get to this one. This is a woman as she is climbing it's a mountain that starts with M, Manaslu. And she starts to experience scary things. I'm really excited. I think this one's going to be really good. Next question. What are some anticipated releases that I have for this year? So I ended up reading everything in the Holloway series, and the 7th or 8th book in the series, essentially the next one up, comes out, I want to say at the end of August. I don't know when it even comes out, but I set an alert and I am excited. I loved that series, and it started to get really juicy at the end there, so I'm hoping this installment's fantastic. I'm gonna love it regardless. Also, Taylor Jenkins Reid has Carrie Soto is Back, coming out at the end of August. And my thoughts on Malibu Rising were, how is it that why on earth would she pick the worst character in the last book to write a book about? And I kind of feel the same way about this one. And I loved Malibu Rising, so I'm really interested to see what she's gonna do with this one. And I'm not gonna lie, after reading that, I got pretty excited about this. We'll see. We'll see. The biggest disappointment so far. For this, I'm going with Lucy Foley's The Paris Apartment. And I think ultimately this one is just like an overhype kind of situation. For whatever reason, she gets recommended on my For You page a lot. And there's a lot of people that are reading her. I found the entire thing to be boring and lackluster, and really just made me not want to pick her up again. I just found it very blah. Everything that should have been good just fell flat for me. For whatever reason. I just didn't like the writing style. I didn't like it. Everything about it for me just didn't work. Yeah. The biggest surprise. This one might be a little bit mean, but I'm going to go with Graham Norton's A Keeper. I loved it. I loved it so much. And to be honest, I don't know really what I expected to begin with. I honestly don't know what I expected, but it was fantastic. It's about a daughter whose mother dies and she's basically left to pick up the pieces. It's set in Ireland, but at this point she's kind of living in New York. So she's in a different really stage in her life. She goes back to Ireland to deal with her mother's affairs, and the story just blows up from there. It was so fantastic. It had great pacing. It was well written. It was gripping. It was engaging. I mean, it just had everything. I guess I was expecting it to be just like, okay. I expected it kind of to be on the level of like Paris Apartment, like maybe it's just a novelty that he writes. No, it was so good. I mean, so good. I really wanted to check out his other ones instantly, but I'm like, no, he doesn't have that many. I better pace myself. So I'm really excited to get to those. I loved it. New favorite author, Jennifer Ashley. So I had a book on my list for a long time, and it was The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie. I heard of this one from Jean, from Jean Bookish Thoughts, I believe is what her channel's name is. But she'd read it, and it was a romance that she read, and she really, really enjoyed it. I, through like a weird happenstance, got a deal on Chirped, and I didn't realize that she had another series. So I ended up picking up one of the Cat Holloway series. I thought I was getting the first one. I ended up getting the third. So I read it out of order, and that just, it bothers me. I really don't like doing that. But whatever. It didn't ruin it for me. I ended up going back and reading the entire series, even the like mini series at the beginning, or like the little novella at the beginning. I loved every bit of it. After I finished that, I ended up actually reading the romance that I had, The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie. It was so good. It was a like Scottish set Regency romance basically, or like historical romance kind of in the Victorian time, or like circa around that era. It was just so good. You know what she does? She does a really good job of creating rounded characters. She also creates a mystery element oftentimes. I mean, in the cozy mystery, there's like a very, very, very mild romantic element. The romance, obviously, there's more. There's like a little bit more smut, but it's just, both were absolutely fantastic. Both were super well written. Loved, loved, loved. Will be checking out everything she writes. Moving on. Who is your fictional crush? To be honest, I think this was just a dumb question. I don't know that I have a fictional crush in anything, but I don't know that I've ever very, very rarely does it happen that I have a fictional crush. My new favorite character is Cat Holloway. She's a cook. She's kind of in her 30s, or not, she is in her 30s, and she is really well trained, or rather she apprenticed under someone that's very fantastic. She cooks really well. She basically takes care of herself and her daughter, and she's got like a merry band of friends. It's just so cute, so heartwarming. Just, the butler's fantastic, the friends she has are fantastic. Now there's like, she's getting into like number 6 or 7, and there's like a romantic element that's developing, and it's so juicy and nothing is happening, and I'm hoping something happens on the next one. But anyway, I digress. Next one is a book that made you cry. For this, I'm going with Billy Porter's Unprotected. It's a memoir. I listened to it on Scribd. It was so fucking beautiful. It was gorgeous. I cried, I laughed, cried, I sad cried. I just loved it. He narrates his autobiography, and I recommend reading it that way, or listening to it that way. It's so gorgeous. There are also certain parts where he sings, and it's just the voice of an angel. I mean, some of the singing brought tears to my eyes. I mean, it was just, every part of it was absolutely beautiful. Some parts of it were heartbreaking. His story is magnificent. And I absolutely loved it so much. I rarely listen to a book and then want to go buy it. I generally am a one-timer, if you will. But I think I might buy this one for myself. I loved it so much. So much. A book that made you happy. I don't know if I have it in here or not. This is The Prince and the Dressmaker. This is a graphic novel, and it's so heartwarming. It made me so happy. I just loved this. It's about a seamstress who is fantastic at her work, and she has this dream of becoming a fashion designer, and she begins to help the prince as he dresses. He moonlights in drag, and it's it just is so wonderful. The ending of this just, I wish so much more could be like this. This book is fantastic. I loved it. I loved it. You can read it. It's like, it'll take you nothing. That by The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. And now the last question. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? I think that's a weird question. Like, what books do you need to read? I don't know. I just want to. So let me talk about some of the books I want to get to before the end of the year. These are some books that some I've recently picked up-ish, some I've had for a little bit. But I'm going to start with Damon Galgut's The Promise. This was the 2021 Booker Prize winner. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about this. I think it's about a family in South Africa. I'm just so looking forward to this. This I'm thinking I'm going to get to pretty soon. Another one I recently picked up is The Day the World Came to Town, 9/11 in Gander, Newfoundland, by Jim Defendi. Defendi? This is one I heard of from Greg on Supposedly Fun's channel, and he and his husband had such wonderful, beautiful things to say about it. I can't wait to read this one. I think this one's going to be really gorgeous. I think it's also going to be, like, I'm hoping it'll be, like, uplifting. However, I suspect it'll be sad. I don't know. I'm hoping it won't be sad. We'll see. Something I have on my list for the summer is Antipoldi and the Sicilian Lions. I got this, like, on one of those, like, $2 or $3 Barnes & Noble books. And I have this reading journal, and this is one of the ones on the list, but it is I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's Antipoldi, and she, like, abandons everything and decides that she's going to go to Italy. And then things happen to her. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot in the series also, so maybe if it's really good, I'll continue that. We shall see. Next, I have Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. This is a love story set in the UK, and it's very short. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it, and when I'm in the mood for, like, a rock you to your core love story, which I will, this is gonna be it. And finally, the last book that I want to prioritize for this summer is Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. This is set in California during the Red Scare, and it's just kind of something that's close to home. It's a YA book. It's actually, honestly, I think it's the heftiest one that I picked of everything that I talked about. But yeah, this is a lesbian love story, I believe, and I'm really looking forward to it. So that is my mid-year book freakout tag. If I want to hear what you guys are reading this summer and what books that you are going to prioritize before the end of the year, let me know how you're doing on your reading in the comments below. I'll talk to you guys next time.